It's being called a security breach of staggering proportions. Sony has confirmed that hackers broke into its PlayStation network, exposing the personal information of up to 77 million users worldwide.
After Sony was finally able to overcome PS3's overprice and losing money on the PS3, they were finally back, growing once again. Of course, now they had two big competitors, but Sony was slowly making their way up after the small defeat. Something that would almost halt Sony's entire reincarnation, but thanks to a loyal fan base, Sony was able to get over it. So how did this all happen? Well, it dates back all the way to January 2nd of 2011. George Hotz, an infamous jailbreaker, would find a way to jailbreak the PS3. At that time, jailbreaking was an extremely easy process. Of course, you would have to find a way to jailbreak in the first place, but it's not as hard as it is today. He would release this process to the public on his website and other forums, and a week later, Sony would find out and sue him for releasing the process.
I'm getting sued by Sony. Let's take us out of the courtroom and into the streets. I'm a beast, at the least you'll face me in the northeast. Get my ire up, light my fire. I'll go harder than Eminem went at Mariah. Call me a liar.
This infuriated the hacking/jailbreaking community, and 2 months later, the infamous hacking group Anonymous started tampering with Sony's websites. During this time, Sony won the case against George, and he would have to remove anything showing how to jailbreak the PS3. On April 13th, Anonymous threatened Sony with a cryptic video claiming a huge war will begin. And only 3 days later, PSN was breached. Over 77 million users' personal information was at stake. This spanned across the time of 4 days, ending on April 17th. Sony would take action 2 days later and would put PSN offline. They determined also to keep the information confidential. Although you would believe Anonymous is the one who did this, they claimed that they had absolutely nothing to do with the hacking. Almost 2 weeks later, Sony would reveal that PSN was breached, after fans were curious and confused why they weren't able to go online. They had also informed this to the FBI, and an investigation began. April 27th came, and an individual named Christopher Jones from Alabama would sue Sony, claiming Sony failed to encrypt data, establishing a lawsuit stating that Sony failed to inform users about the breach and the vulnerability of their credit card information, which violates the PCI compliance, which is the standard for digital security in the card industry. After all this hectic confusion, May 1st came, and Sony would issue an official statement of apology. Oddly enough, as Sony was explaining all this, they admitted that they actually knew this vulnerability and never really did anything about it.
今回の脆弱性はですね、機器の脆弱性でございました。
One employee from Sony named Kaz Hirari claimed that he found a file in PSN that's called Anonymous, and the heading is "We Are Legion." And the true question would have to be how? Sony believes that one of the reasons that Anonymous was tampering with the website was so that they could distract ITs from PSN being breached. It makes sense. Although Anonymous responded to all of these allegations saying that they had absolutely nothing to do with anything, saying that they are white hat hackers. If you don't know what a white hat hacker is, it is someone who fights crime and fights corrupt governments. They said that their business is not stealing credit cards.
Anonymous is on your side, standing up for your rights. We are not aiming to attack customers of Sony. This attack is aimed solely at Sony, and we will try our best to not affect the gamers, as this would defeat the purpose of our actions. If we did inconvenience users.
This gave some people the intention that some people were faking being anonymous just to scare Sony. PSN would eventually return, and Sony would compensate everyone by giving 30 days of free PS Plus and a few free games. Although the games are not really exciting, they are free, and free is a pretty good term. Not just that, but they also got identity theft insurance. In total, all of this would cost Sony over $150 million. For a period of time, Sony would also lose customers' trust, and by their apology, I could tell that this was sincere. They felt disappointed and they wanted to do the right thing, and they did it. And even though they would be hacked again by Lizard Squad and North Korea, at least people's personal information was not at stake. So basically, here's what really happened. Sony removed the option to use third-party operating systems like Linux, and there were some people who were not really okay with this. This is the reason that George Hotz jailbreaks the PS3. Sony's argument for suing Hotz is that they believe that he was going to use it as a piracy method to get games for free, but Hotz said that he just wanted freedom to be used on the device. This is also why Anonymous was on Hotz's side. It seems like the biggest issue here is miscommunication, and that the intent was not really known. Sony believed that the reason was to steal, and Hot's reasoning was for freedom. It really is debatable and very subjective, and it really is one of those your own opinion sort of ideas. The idea of how much one man can influence an entire company really shows how much power the people have.